The room was hot, dark, and full of noise. Creatures from different planets shouted over each other. Some had sharp teeth. Others had long tails or metal arms. All of them were buyers rich, cruel, and dangerous. They had come to this secret auction not to buy things, but to buy living beings. In the center of the room was a raised stage. One by one, slaves were brought out in chains. The crowd cheered, laughed, and threw out their bids. And then, everything stopped. A new girl was dragged onto the stage, tall, proud, and beautiful, even with her wrists tied in glowing chains. Her skin was silver blue, her hair like shining metal, her eyes burned with fire. She didn't look weak like the others, she looked like a queen. The crowd fell silent for a moment. The auctioneer laughed. Ah, yes. Now we have something rare. A royal alien girl. A true princess from the Viren Empire. Someone in the crowd shouted, "She's dangerous. She'll kill you in your sleep." Another alien said, "She's not broken yet. Not worth the price." The auctioneer smiled wide. Exactly. She's wild, proud, full of fire. Isn't that what makes her exciting? Who wants to tame a royal pet? The girl on stage raised her chin. "I am not for sale," she said, her voice calm but sharp like a blade. The crowd laughed. Someone threw a piece of meat at her. Another tossed fake coins. The auctioneer tried to keep the mood light. She was captured during the war. Her people left her behind. And now she's yours for the right price, of course. But no one made a bid. Even in a room full of monsters, no one wanted to deal with a proud alien princess. Until a human walked in. His name was Marcus. He wore an old soldier's jacket and carried a backpack full of dust. He had short hair, a strong jaw, and tired eyes. He looked like someone who had seen too much war and didn't care much anymore. He wasn't there to buy anyone. He had just come to this market looking for parts for his ship. But the noise from the auction had pulled him in. He looked up at the stage and saw her. Their eyes met for a moment. She stared at him, expecting him to mock her like the others. But he didn't laugh. He saw something in her face. Something that reminded him of himself. Alone, trapped, betrayed by her own people. Marcus raised his hand. "I'll take her," he said. The room went silent again. The auctioneer blinked. "You'll what?" "I said I'll take her," Marcus repeated, louder this time. Someone laughed. "The human wants a royal girl?" A huge alien with 6 arms barked. "What will you do with her, human? She's not for cleaning floors." The auctioneer grinned. "Fine, you can take her, but you must take her as your wife. That's the only legal way to remove her from the system." Gasps echoed across the room. Everyone looked at Marcus, expecting him to back off. The girl's eyes widened. She looked angry and confused. She shouted from the stage, "You're taking me as your wife? Really?" Marcus didn't blink. "Yes, I am." The auctioneer slammed the hammer down. "Sold." The crowd broke into cheers, laughter, and insults. A human married to a princess. What a joke. The guards unlocked her chains and pushed her off the stage. She stumbled forward, but caught herself. Marcus stepped forward and helped her. "Stand." She slapped his hand away. "I didn't ask for this," she said coldly. "I know," he replied. "But you didn't deserve what they were doing to you." "I am not weak," she hissed. "I didn't say you were." They stood there, facing each other. The crowd lost interest and moved on to the next slave. For a few seconds it was just the two of them in that noisy place. 2 strangers connected by a single strange choice. She stared into his eyes. "What do you want from me, human?" Marcus shrugged. "Nothing." She narrowed her eyes. "Then why say I'm your wife?" He looked around the room, then back at her. "Because it was the only way to get you out of that cage," he said. "And maybe because I couldn't walk away this time." Before she could ask what he meant, He turned and started walking away. After a moment, she followed. And just like that, the alien princess and the human soldier left the auction together, one confused, one silent, and both walking toward a future neither of them could see yet. But someone was watching them from the shadows. And this strange marriage had just begun. The desert wind howled like a hungry beast. Under a burning red sky, Marcus walked across the dry sand with the alien princess behind him. Her hands were no longer chained, but her pride still felt locked. Every step she took beside him was filled with confusion, anger, and something else she didn't want to admit. They were silent for a long time, and then she snapped. "Stop walking!" Marcus stopped and turned slowly. She stepped forward, her silver blue face burning with frustration. Her metallic hair whipped in the wind, and her voice trembled not with fear, but fury. "You told them I'm your wife," she said. "That's not something you just say as a joke." Marcus looked at her calmly. It wasn't a joke. Her eyes widened. "So what is this then? A marriage? Between a human soldier and a royal alien?" He tilted his head. "Only if you want it to be." "I don't." "Good," he replied simply. "Because I didn't do it for love. I did it to save your life." That stopped her. The wind blew again. Dust danced between them like ghosts from another world. Celia crossed her arms. "You could have walked away. Why didn't you?" Marcus looked past her, toward the market now far behind them. "Because once I did walk away, from someone who needed me. And she didn't survive." There was a pause. Celia looked at him with a new expression, less fire, more curiosity. "What happened to her?" she asked. Marcus didn't answer. He turned and kept walking. This time she followed without a word. Later, inside a small cave carved into a cliffside, they rested. Marcus lit a fire. Celia sat near the edge, arms around her knees, staring at him. She was a princess trained in war and diplomacy. She had faced kings, generals, and traitors. But this quiet human man, he was harder to read than any of them. "You risked your life just to take me away from that cage?" she finally asked. Marcus didn't look at her. He just added more fuel to the fire. "You were screaming without sound. I recognize that look. I've seen it in the mirror. Do you always rescue strange women and call them your wives?" "No," he said. "Only the angry ones with fire in their eyes." To her surprise, she laughed. Just a small one. But it was real. Celia stood and looked down at him. "I don't belong to you. I'm not your property. I know. And I'm not broken. I know." She walked closer. "Then stop pretending you own me." Marcus looked up at her. "I never did." Their eyes met again like they had at the auction. But this time, something was different. Not silence, not anger. Something in between. "You confuse me, human," she said quietly. "Good," he replied. "Then we're even." Outside in the shadows beyond the cave, a pair of red eyes watched from the rocks. Someone had followed them. Someone who didn't want the princess free. Back inside, Celia lay near the fire. Marcus sat across from her, polishing a worn-out blade. The flames danced between them, casting soft light on the cave walls. Celia spoke again, her voice softer this time. "You know, in my world, a royal marriage is sacred, a bond between empires." Marcus nodded. "And in mine, marriage is a promise to protect, to never walk away." She studied him. "You think you're protecting me?" "No," he said. "I'm protecting the choice you never had." That struck her deeper than any blade. She looked away, blinking quickly. And for the first time since she was captured, Princess Celia didn't feel like a prisoner. The cave was silent, but Celia couldn't sleep. Not because of the rough stone floor, not because of the cold wind slipping through the cracks, but because of him, the human. She turned her head slightly and saw Marcus sitting with his back against the wall, eyes closed but not sleeping. His weapon rested across his lap, ready to be drawn at any moment. He had not tied her up. He hadn't even blocked the exit. She could run away right now if she wanted to. So, why hadn't she? As the stars above began to fade into morning light, Celia stood up slowly. She walked out of the cave, her bare feet silent on the sand. She didn't get far. Marcus's voice came from behind her, low and calm. "You're not a prisoner, princess. You don't need to sneak away." Celia turned slowly. "Then what am I?" He stepped outside, standing a few feet from her. "You're my guest. Or my travel partner. Or, if the law still matters, my wife." He said the word with a small shrug, like it didn't carry much. Wait, but to Celia, it was heavy. She crossed her arms. "You keep saying that word. But what does it mean to you, human?" Marcus looked at her carefully, then sat down on a nearby rock. "It means you're under my protection," he said. "It means no one gets to chain you again while I'm alive. It doesn't mean I own you, and it doesn't mean I expect anything from you." She frowned. "No control? No demands? No touching?" He gave a short laugh. "Not unless you break the rules." Her eyes narrowed. "What rules?" Marcus stood up again and raised a finger. "Rule 1, he said. "If you're in danger, you run to me, not from me. Rule 2, you don't lie to me, I won't lie to you. Rule 3, if you plan to stab me in the back, at least let me finish breakfast first." Celia blinked, and then she actually smiled. "You think you're clever?" He nodded. "No, just tired of people pretending to be monsters. I've seen enough real ones." She stared at him for a long moment. Her whole life had been filled with people trying to use her nobles, commanders, even her own family. No one had ever offered her protection without price, until now. Later that afternoon, they stopped at an old fuel station in the desert. The droids inside didn't ask questions, but the local thugs did. 2 reptilian aliens blocked the entrance. One licked his lips and pointed at Celia. "Pretty little thing." "You selling her?" Marcus didn't answer. The second one sneered. "Or maybe you're renting." Marcus handed Celia a small bag and said quietly, "Go inside. Get water and rations. Take your time." Celia looked at him, unsure. But she obeyed. Then Marcus turned to the 2 creatures and broke the first one's nose. The second didn't even get a chance to reach for his weapon. Celia came out 2 minutes later and stopped in surprise. Both thugs were on the ground, groaning, unconscious. She raised an eyebrow. "You said you weren't my bodyguard." "I'm not," Marcus replied. "But I'll break bones for my wife if I have to." She didn't say thank you. But the way she walked beside him after that changed. That night, she asked the question that had been building inside her. "Why didn't you touch me?" she said quietly by the fire. Marcus looked up, confused. "What? You could have claimed me. You bought me in the auction. You called me your wife. But you didn't even try." Marcus stirred the fire. Slowly. "Because I didn't want a body." She looked puzzled. "I wanted to give someone a choice," he said. "Something no one gave me when I was young." Celia stared at him, then looked away. And for the first time in her life, she felt something strange and terrifying. Safe. The sky cracked open with a distant boom. Dark clouds rolled over the red desert like angry beasts. Lightning flashed. The wind screamed louder than any beast Marcus had ever fought. And in the middle of it all they were being hunted. Hours earlier, they had left the fuel station in silence. Marcus had felt it first, a strange tension in the air. Someone was watching them, following, not just bandits, not bounty hunters. Something worse. Celia had sensed it too. She had trained for war, and her instincts screamed of danger. But she didn't speak. She stayed close to Marcus, her fingers always near the knife hidden in her boot. When the first blaster shot came from the ridge above them, It missed Marcus's head by only inches. "Down!" he shouted. They dove behind a wrecked transport ship half buried in the sand. A voice echoed from the hills. "Return the princess, human. She belongs to the Viren Empire." Celia's face went pale. Marcus looked at her. "Friends of yours?" She shook her head slowly. "Traitors, my father's soldiers. They were sent to kill me, not bring me home." More blasts rained down. Marcus grabbed her hand and ran. The storm hit hard. Rain fell like knives. Wind pulled at their clothes and nearly knocked Celia off her feet. The sky lit up every few seconds with blue-white lightning. Marcus found a shallow cave at the bottom of a rocky slope. They ducked inside, soaked and gasping for breath. Celia was shaking more from anger than fear. "They were supposed to protect me," she whispered. "They were my guards, my people." Marcus didn't speak. He sat near the mouth of the cave, rifle ready, eyes locked on the storm outside. Celia stared at him. "Why do you keep doing this? Protecting me, running with me?" Marcus didn't look back. "Because you don't deserve to die in the dirt, not like this." She sat beside him. "Back in the market, I thought you were just another fool. Some hero who wanted to feel strong by saving a girl." He glanced at her. "You're still not sure, are you?" She shook her head. "I'm not sure if you're saving me or saving yourself." Marcus said nothing. Because maybe she was right. Thunder boomed louder now. Sand blew into the cave, stinging their skin. Suddenly movement. A shadow stepped into view outside the cave, then another. Marcus raised his weapon. "Stay back," he warned. But the shadows didn't stop. Then Celia stepped in front of him. "No," she said. "They want me. Let them look at what I've become." She stepped out into the wind, hair flying wildly, eyes glowing in the stormlight. "I'm not a prisoner," she shouted. "Not a princess either. I'm the girl your emperor threw away." One of the figures hesitated. "You don't have to die, Celia." "I already died once," she said coldly. "Back in that cage." Marcus stepped beside her. The men raised their weapons. So did he. The wind roared. The storm exploded in light. And then everything went black. When Celia opened her eyes, she was back inside the cave. Her head ached. Marcus was beside her, face bleeding, but alive. "You fought them," she whispered. He nodded weakly. "Didn't plan to, but they left me no choice." Her hands trembled as she touched his face, wiping away the blood. "You're insane," she said softly. "Probably." She leaned closer. And for the first time, she didn't hate the word wife as much as she used to. Blood. The taste was still in Marcus's mouth. He had barely opened his eyes when he realized Celia was gone. He tried to sit up, but pain screamed through his ribs. The cave was cold and quiet. The fire had burned out. Only the sound of wind remained, but her voice was missing. He stumbled out of the cave, leaving a trail of red behind him, and looked at the sand. Tracks, boots, too many. They had taken her. Earlier that night, Celia had been watching Marcus sleep, his head resting against the cave wall, his rifle still in hand even in his dreams. That's when she heard the soft footsteps in the sand. She stood, knife drawn, but it was too late. 3 shadowed figures dropped from above like predators. One of them grabbed her. Another placed a glowing collar around her neck. Her body froze. What is this?" she gasped. A tall, armored alien leaned forward. "You were warned, princess. But you chose a human over your people." Celia's jaw clenched. "I chose someone who didn't throw me away like trash." They laughed and dragged her out into the storm. Marcus followed the tracks across the desert, limping, bleeding but not stopping. He didn't know where they were taking her. He didn't care how many of them there were. He had failed once before. Not again. Celia was thrown to the ground inside a cold metal cell. this time on a moving skyship. Chains wrapped around her arms, glowing with restraint fields. One of the soldiers leaned in. "Your father has no use for a daughter who lets a human touch her." Celia didn't speak. "You could have been a queen," he said, voice full of venom. "Now you'll be erased." Still, she said nothing. But inside her heart, a storm was rising. Not of fear, but fury. She whispered something. Under her breath. "What was that?" the guard asked. She looked up, her silver blue eyes glowing. "I said, he's coming." The door exploded. Smoke, fire, and fury poured into the ship. Marcus stormed in, his body cut and bruised, but his aim steady. One shot, two. The guards dropped. Celia's chains deactivated with a hiss as he crushed the control panel beside the cell. She stood slowly, breathing hard. He stepped closer. "You okay?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stared at him with something fierce in her eyes. "You came for me," Marcus blinked. "Of course." "I did. I was chained, powerless. You still came," he nodded. "Yeah, that's what husbands do." "Right?" She laughed just once, a broken, surprised sound. Then she stepped forward and without warning threw her arms around him. "I'm still not your wife," she whispered. "I know. But I'm not leaving you." "I know." They stood like that while the skyship burned around them. Back on the ground, hours later, they found an abandoned outpost. Marcus patched his wounds while Celia sat quietly, staring into the fire. She finally spoke. "You weren't supposed to care." Marcus looked up. "People in my life always wanted something," she said. "Power, position, status." She looked at him now. "You wanted nothing." He met her eyes. "Not true." Her chest tightened. "Then what do you want?" He smiled just a little. "Your freedom, your fire, your choice." Celia looked away, her voice small. I think I want to choose you." The moonlight touched her face like a secret whisper. Princess Celia stood alone outside the ruined outpost. Her silver-blue skin shimmered under the stars. Wind passed gently through the broken windows behind her, where Marcus lay resting, still healing from the fight. She had a choice now. For the first time, no chains, no collar, no orders. Just freedom and him. Earlier that night, she had found something folded in Marcus's bag, a torn photo. It showed him with a little girl laughing, holding her high in the air. She wasn't Viren. She wasn't his. But he looked at her like she was the whole galaxy. When Celia asked about it, he simply said, "I promised her I'd protect her. I failed. That was all." No tears, no excuses, only quiet pain. And now, here he was willing to bleed again for someone he didn't even know days ago. For her, the broken princess, the unwanted heir. The girl who once believed no human could ever be trusted. Suddenly, a noise behind her. Marcus stepped out of the shadows, his steps slow, still tired. "I thought you left," he said softly. "I did," she replied. "Then why come back?" She turned to him, eyes glowing like moonlit fire. "Because I'm tired of running from people who see me as a crown or a curse." Marcus said nothing. She took one step closer. "You never asked me for anything. You didn't try to own me. You never called me weak, even when I was." Marcus gave her a gentle nod. "You were never weak." Her lips trembled. Not from fear, but from feeling something dangerous. Hope. She looked into his tired eyes and said the words that felt heavier than any royal title she ever held. "When you called me your wife, back then, did you mean it?" Marcus swallowed hard. "No, not at first." He stepped closer now. "But maybe now I do." Celia laughed softly, almost shyly. "That's good," she whispered. "Because now I think I want to mean it too." Before Marcus could respond, a loud engine roared in the distance. Celia turned sharply. A black transport hovered low over the desert stealth class, no lights, quiet. Not imperial, worse, hunters, alien mercenaries who didn't care about royal blood or human laws. They only cared about the reward on her head. Marcus reached for his weapon, but Celia stopped him. No. She stepped forward, drawing her own stolen blaster from her belt. I'm tired of being protected. She aimed, her posture strong. This time, I fight beside you, Marcus smiled. Now you sound like a wife, she smirked. Don't get cocky, human. What followed was chaos. Sand exploded. Shots lit the night. Celia moved like a dancer of war, fast, precise, unforgiving. And Marcus? He covered her back like a true partner. Together, they weren't just surviving. They were winning. Later, as the smoking remains of the hunter ship cooled in the dark, Celia sat beside Marcus, both of them bruised and breathless. She reached for his hand. Not as a princess, not as a prisoner, but as a woman who had finally made a real choice. I still don't wear a ring, she said. Marcus looked at her. I don't have one. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Then just don't let go. I won't. Asterisk, the stars blinked above them like quiet witnesses. Princess Celia stood at the edge of the human outpost landing platform, watching the desert one last time. Her armor was scorched, her hair messy, her body sore, but for the first time in her life, she felt complete. Behind her, voices echoed, human soldiers rushing to greet Marcus, shocked to see him alive, but even more shocked to see her. Is that an alien royal? One soldier whispered. Did she just hold his hand? Wait, he's bringing her in as his wife. Marcus didn't answer them. He simply walked beside her, quiet, calm, and proud. No fear. No shame. He was a soldier without rank now, but somehow he looked more powerful than any man alive. Inside the command tent, things weren't so calm. The base leader, an older woman with metal implants and cold eyes, slammed her hand on the table. You brought a Viren princess here? Are you insane? That could start a war. Marcus stood tall. She was sold in a slave auction. I didn't start the war. Her own people left her for dead. Celia stepped forward, voice sharp. I am not here as a royal. I am not here to beg. I am here as a wife by choice. The entire room froze. The commander stared at her, stunned. I didn't think your kind knew what marriage meant. Celia smiled faintly. Neither did I. Until I met this human. They were given a small cabin on the edge of the outpost just for one night. The next morning, Celia stood in front of Marcus in a simple gray cloak, no crown, no chains. Just her. She held a small copper ring in her palm. It's not royal, she said softly, but I found it in the wreckage. It's shaped like a circle, no end. Marcus took it gently. No beginning either, he whispered. She looked into his eyes, her voice barely above a breath. Then take me as your real wife. He didn't kneel. She didn't bow. There was no priest, no ritual, just two people who had bled, burned, and survived together, choosing each other under the broken light of a quiet sky. He slipped the ring on her finger. Then, finally, kissed her. Not as a hero, not as a savior, but as a man who had found a reason to stay. Later that day, a transmission came through from the Viren Empire. Cold, demanding, return the princess immediately, or face the wrath of her people. Celia replied with only 5 words. I am no longer yours. The message went viral across systems. Some called it betrayal. Others called it love. But on a forgotten desert outpost, far from crowns and courts, a new legend was born of a human soldier. And the alien princess who chose to be his wife.